This screencast is going to show you how to create the male Automoblox figure with a square base. So this screencast you can use to create this first Automoblox figure. Then you're going to have to try to figure out how to alter it to have the bases of different shapes so they can fit in your passenger base section, which has a square, triangle, circle, and star. And then also how to make the female Automoblox figure, how they're different. So we're going to start by creating a 2D sketch on the bottom. I'm going to start with the bottom of his square base. So I'm just going to create that square. And I want my dimension of each side to be 5.575. If you go back to your passenger base, you'll see that we're making the square this shape, this size, so that it will fit into our base. So let's just go ahead and center this square around the axis. So we're going to use our horizontal constraint and choose the midpoint of this line to line up horizontally with the center axis, and our vertical point to line up vertically. Now we see that our line turns blue, so we know they're fixed into place. So we'll finish that sketch. We can extrude this square, let's say 0.3. And I see that he has a small, it's actually an ellipse on the base that he is standing on. So we're going to create another sketch on top of this base that we've created. And we want to make an ellipse. And for an ellipse, you choose the center point, and then your ellipse will come out that way. So let's make that exactly horizontal to parallel to the base. And then we'll click and drag out, and that will be the ellipse that we're starting with. So we can see that he's standing on a smaller ellipse, and then he has a bigger ellipse for his body. So we're going to finish that and extrude this sketch just a little bit, maybe 0.1. Now we want to create a work plane on this top portion. So you have to click twice to get that. Oh, that gave us the wrong work plane. So this is giving us a work plane through the middle of that. Let's choose to make a work plane offset from the bottom plane that we started with. And we extruded this 0.1 and this 0.3 and this 0.1. So let's make that 0.4, and that will be right on the top of our base. So we want to create a sketch on this work plane, and remember, if you try to click in the middle, you won't be able to. You have to click on the outside lines of that plane. And we want to use this project geometry. And this button, if we click on the ellipse that we made before, this will project that sketch onto our work plane. So we want that so that we can see that sketch and we can make our sketch off of it. So we're going to use our ellipse again, and this time just make an ellipse a little bit larger than the other one. So now we can finish that sketch, and we don't want to see this, so we're going to right click on it and uncheck our visibility. So we want to extrude this for his body, and as we learned when we made the cup back at the a couple screencasts back, we can use a tapered extrusion to just make this get a little wider. We don't need to do a loft. So we're going to extrude this circle, and we want the other circle also. So to select both of them, make sure that your circle is fully solid. And let's say that we want to extrude that maybe 1 inch. That looks good, and if we go to more, we see that we can do our tapered extrusion. So if I do 5 degrees, maybe 7 degrees, looks like he is getting wider. So I'm going to say around 7 or 8 degrees. So I can see now that I have my base square, my small little ellipse that he's standing on, and then the ellipse for his body. You can see that I'm not really putting dimensions in here, and that's because the only thing that needs to fit into our car is the square to fit into the passenger base. Everything else is just for looks, so you can actually choose whatever dimensions you want. Obviously, if you make him really, really tall, he might not fit in with the windshield, so you might have to make his body a little bit smaller. But you can pretty much make these decisions for yourself based on your own artistic thoughts. So what we want to do now, what I'm going to do now is try to create the fact that his shoulders are a little, they scoop down in the front and the back. So what I'm going to want to do is use a couple new tools to make this happen. So first we want to we've made work planes before. We just made one before over here, and we can see that it's gray because we turned off the visibility. So we can make work axes also. So you can make them all different ways, but we want to use this one through the center of a circular or elliptical edge, because we want to make an axis through the center of this ellipse. And you see that I can't select this one because that's the extruded portion. You need to go down to your sketch. So either of these sketches, they both share the same center point, even this sketch. So you can choose any of these ellipses to make your work axis. So we'll just click that, and you see that we now have this line. And over here you see work axis, and we can also do the same thing as work planes, turn on and off the visibility of that axis. So what I'm going to want to do now is create a plane that's going to be right on this portion of our sketch. And you can see that I can still select other work planes, but if I go to the edge of my work plane, I get this little symbol, circle with the X, and if I click that, then my work plane turns orange and it shows up in my browser on the side. So you can see that it's kind of cutting through here a little bit, and what we're going to want to do is create a sketch onto this plane. We can see where it's cutting through, and we can use slice graphics, which we can see in view, our view tab. It's also F7, if you can see right when it pops up next to it says F7, so I can either click here, or if I want to just stay in my sketch tab and not go through other tabs, I can just click F7. And you see that when I slice it, it looks like it's kind of the grainy portion inside of my sketch. So what I'm going to want to do is create a sketch on the outside of this, on this work plane. And I'm going to want to make my work plane bigger and drag it over in the middle. Don't get confused at this portion, just you might want to watch what I'm doing and then rewind the video and do it with me the second time so that you don't get confused about what's happening. So what I want to do is make a sketch along the outside of my shape. So I want to make sure that I keep my entire shape inside my sketch. The only part that I want outside of my sketch is what's going to get cut out. So I don't want to cut my base. I don't want to cut this. What I want to do is make an arc along the top so that his shoulders, like over here, will be a little bit rounded on the sides. So I'm going to make a sketch, like a sort of cup-like sketch along the outside of here. And we can see every single thing that I have is inside except for the top up here. So I'm going to want to use my constraints and say that I want my midpoint of here to line up with this work axis. We can see now that my shape is right along there, and I might want to now change this line so that my entire shape is in there. If I have any point cut off, it will not show up when I use my extrusion next. So if I even cut off this little portion, it will cut off that portion of my sketch. So I can use my arc, and to use arc, I'll click one side, click the other side, and then go up. And I'm going to want to go almost to the, maybe almost to the top of him. I can go all the way up, but it might be a little bit flat on the top, and I don't know if I want that. So I'm going to go like this, so my entire shape is going to be rounded. And I can use my trim tool to now trim these inside lines. This yellow line, remember, is just an axis, so I can't trim that out, and that's not an object line, so that won't mess up my shape. So I can see now, once I extrude this, all this top portion is going to be cut out. So what I want to do now is finish my sketch, and I want to use my extrude tool. Now you can see that it's extruding this shape, and that's not the shape that I want, but I'm going to show you a little trick with extrude. So we want our extrude to be on intersect, which is this third line down. This second one is cut, this one is join. We want to intersect, and you can see now the outside of that shape is blue and transparent, and you can see the middle of my shape in there and what is getting cut out. I can see if I do it this way, it's going to cut off the part since I slice graphics. So I'm going to use symmetric, and I just have to make sure that my distance, if my distance is 1, it's not going to get my whole shape. I just need to make sure it's a distance that will encompass my entire shape in there. Once I click OK there, you should see we can make these not visible anymore, these work plane and work axis. And you can see that now his shoulders are rounded. He has some rounded shoulders right there. The larger your arc was, the more rounded his shoulders will be at the top. So for the last thing that we want to do, he needs a head. So we're going to create a work plane. And I'm going to go at this angle so that you can see. I want it to be mid-plane between two parallel planes. I'm going to choose the front and the back plane, and we can see when I go over here, it gives me that yellow line in the middle to tell me that's where my plane will be. Once I click there, I get my plane, and I want to create a sketch onto that plane. Now I'm going to drag this up, and I'm going to drag up my plane, and I just need to make a sketch that's somewhat like half of his head, because I can revolve it around. So I can use whatever tools I need to create the sketch of his head. I can use my line, circle, arc, rectangle. I'm going to use my spline tool, and I'm going to make sure that I'm lined up with those dots and just make his head. You might have to try a couple different times to get this right, because you think that your shape is going to come out one way, and then it comes out another once you revolve it. So we're going to click OK and use my line tool to line that up to make that a fully enclosed shape. Click my revolve tool, and I chose the profile. Now I need to choose the axis, which is this middle. You'll see it will spin his head around. Click check, and you can see that now he has his head on. So you can do whatever kind of head you want. You can put a hat on him, you can put a little headband or whatever you want. So use this screencast to make the rest of your Automoblox figures with the different shapes on the bottom. And you can make 2 males, 2 females, or whatever. You just need at least 1 male and 1 female. Okay.